Brainspotting, we don't have the cognitions and the positive and the VOC. We go right to the body, because that goes directly to the deep brain. That's where the basis of the problem is in our animal reactions. The rational brain can't override animal reactions. The amygdala is in the mammalian brain. So it more affects the neocortex than the neocortex affecting the amygdala. It's like people who go for psychoanalysis for many years. They say, I understand everything, but I don't feel any better. The information here does not get back here. But with Brainspotting, it goes direct to the amygdala and the brainstem.
A minha pergunta é, está ficando claro que os movimentos dos atletas e dos jogos vão estar mexendo muito mais a nível primário do cérebro do que a nível de córtex. Por isso, o Brainspotting é muito mais eficaz para o esporte do que...
It's not will be. It's already is.
Eu gostaria que você nos falasse de suas experiências, então.
Most sports psychology works with this part of the brain. CBT, cognitive therapy, relaxation, visualization. Cognitive therapists believe that how you think affects how you feel emotionally and in your body, which is like believing that water flows uphill. They dominate the field of sports psychology and get poquito results. But in the field of sports, they have the influence. The athlete and the teams have no other place to go. They also have no idea about trauma and dissociation. And every athlete has issues with sports trauma and sports dissociation. The number one cause are sports injuries. Every athlete has had many sports injuries, going back to childhood and adolescence. When you have a sports injury, it's a physical injury to the nervous system and a psychological injury to the nervous system at the same time. So they get woven together in the nervous system, so that the physical and the psychological trauma are locked together, and they collect over time. Sports injuries are denied by coaches and players. They say, shake it off, play through the pain, okay, tough it out. That's the whole culture of sports. So there is complete denial about the effect of sports injuries as a trauma. Now, there are other sports traumas, sports failures and sports humiliations. They traumatize the athlete and stay in their nervous system. Okay? Athletes play with a great deal of exposure. People watch athletes play. And with professionals, it's thousands and millions watching. So you can't hide. You're under a microscope. And sports performance is based on precision. When a football player kicks the ball, the difference of this much, like the ball go here or go here. For a goalie, the split-second reaction time, the difference between them getting their fingertips on the ball, guiding it over the goal, or just going by and they score a goal. So the difference is very small while you're being observed. Whatever problems you're carrying will be exposed sooner or later. And if you fail enough, you're off the team and your career is over. There's a spectrum of how sports traumas affect athletes, and it can happen to the top athletes of any sport. The extreme is called the yips, which is a loss of function. It's like a freeze response. You go from fight to flight to freeze. This loss of function is from flight to freeze. This is a kicker that could be the best the best forward in football. Could happen to the best forward in football, who runs up to the ball and freezes. Whereas they kick the ball, their leg jerks, and the easiest kick could go off in any direction. They get so impaired, so held back. Any of us could kick the ball better than them. They start to develop anxiety and panic, and if they can't find their way out of it, they're finished. This is all based on sports trauma and sports dissociation. And if you look at their history, you see profound sports injuries, sports failures and humiliations. And nobody knows about it in the entire world. It's as obvious as this glass sitting here. Nobody sees it. Now, so you have the full spectrum. Even the athletes who are playing the best are still carrying sports traumas, the injuries and humiliations. No one would think they have a problem, but they're adapting around wherever they're holding it in their system. But it still affects them. They have slumps that they don't have to have. And eventually, sports trauma catches up with them. Then you have everybody in the middle. When you look at team sports, every member of the team has their own sports traumas. And vicarious or secondary trauma, they all have it. Now, we know from group psychology that members of a group influence each other. So the sports trauma that each member of the team has affects the other. It's a synergy. This is for every sport in every country of the world. Sports is it's a $1 trillion industry internationally. It's a business, just like the automobile business. So this is not just a matter of success or failure. Sports trauma costs teams billions of dollars. A team that wins 10 games more or loses 10 games more. But even so, the sports corporations are still using the sports psychologists that get little or no results that don't last. So this is a business issue as well as a performance issue. I've been working with this issue directly for 15 years. With athletes at all levels. Before Brainspotting, I used a modified version of EMDR. Regular EMDR sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. So I modified it for the athlete. When I discovered Brainspotting, I found that Brainspotting was more effective for sports trauma because of the precision, and that sports is all about the visual field. Sports traumas will happen from different directions. So the brain-body memory has to do with eye position. Also, because Brainspotting goes right to the deep brain in the body, and sports is all about body movement, it gets to it directly. Now, even an expert in Brainspotting will not know what I know about adapting Brainspotting for sports. I work with players in every sport, but especially baseball. And the vulnerability in baseball comes out more with throwing the ball. First of all, there's so much that goes into the movement, and any problems in precision will be exposed immediately. Also, throwing the ball starts or continues the action. So on a deep brain basis, it's safer to not throw the ball. While you're trying to move your arm forward, your deep brain is stopping or even pulling back your arm. And baseball players say sometimes they feel like someone grabbed their arm. So there are baseball players who cannot throw the ball. Their hand freezes or locks on it. They call it a death grip. Or their hand gets cold, it feels like it's freezing, it goes numb, but they can't feel it at all. These are all symptoms of dissociation. So the accumulation of sports trauma leads to dissociative conditions that completely interrupt the performance. What I have told you, not one athlete or sports psychologist in Brazil knows. You have knowledge and wisdom that nobody in this country of 200 million has. Sports is huge in Brazil. People go crazy for sports. It's been billions of dollars. And the difference between success and failure, in the brain and the body, nobody knows it. You now know.
Ótimo, eu acho que as Olimpíadas estão vindo para o Brasil, não por acaso.
You forgot about the World Cup.
Ah, sim, a Copa do Mundo, com certeza. Então, os outros países que se cuidem, porque agora Silvia, Sli, Adriana e outras pessoas, sabemos agora grande segredo.
Let me ask you a question. The Brazilian team for World Cup, would they rather have me work doing this sports, Brainspotting sports work with Argentina's World Cup team or with Brazil's World Cup team?
Eu falo em nome do povo brasileiro agora, né? Prefiro que trabalhemos com o time brasileiro.
I'm not going to, if the Brazil's World Cup team doesn't hire me, I'm I'm not going to sit on the sidelines in my allegiance to Brazil. If Argentina wants my services and will pay for it, so the Brazilian team may be playing a team that has a tremendous advantage over them. That never had to be. So how much does Brazil really want to do as well as they can in the World Cup? Looking ahead to the Olympics, all over Brazil. How important is it to Brazil that the Brazilian athletes do very well?
A cobrança vai ser triplicada.
Athletes come to me who've been through 5 different sports psychologists. Either they didn't get better or they got worse. I'm successful with almost all of them. I have enough time and opportunity. It's very important to work during the off season because there's too much pressure during the season. And when you do the work in the off season, the work you do during the season is not to heal the sports traumas. It's to improve the performance. I co-wrote a book about this, coming out in English in 1 or 2 months. It's called This Is Your Brain on Sports.